The other real danger is saying you have a level of automation that maybe you have, but you have it in perfect conditions. And there's just far too many pictures of Teslas crashed into the back end of fire trucks. There's been too many accidents already. This has a lot of public sector support. The US DOT has led a 3-year effort to organize the data behind work zones. Agencies across the country are standardizing requirements that the equipment in the work zone will be connected. And we're starting to see this in the US. This was rolling out very rapidly. We fully expect that within 3 years, we will have a large percentage of all the work activity on the highways connected and available to the automotive industry and to the navigation industry. Next slide, please. Slide 6. Thank you. And so what we're advocating, what we're in the business of rolling out right now, is a private sector solution to this problem. This is an attainable problem. We know where the workers are. If you have a truck on the road with 2 workers there, you're already spending more than $100 an hour to put that truck and those workers there. If we're spending $100 an hour, we can simply afford to spend $1 a day marking them. Safety is proving to be profitable. Insurance savings, there's $18 billion of losses due to roadway work zone accidents every year. If we can achieve a 10% improvement in roadway work zone accidents, we'll have a $2 billion savings. That savings is recognized in insurance underwriting, and it will flow back to the people who make the savings. The workers do want to be seen. We have seen this in our deployments, incredible worker engagement in knowing that the cars approaching them have data on their location and are acting on it. And cloud connectivity is basically everywhere in the United States right now. There's a few blind spots out in the remote parts of the Midwest, but for the most part, anybody with a located modem on their equipment can get information out, and every car built since 2018 has the ability to receive information in. In the United States, we have been building out a network of connectivity in our work zones. It's primarily private sector contractors who want their workers to be on the map in Google, in Waze, in Apple, in the auto companies. Over the last couple of years, we've, as an industry, we've put out more than 5,000 aero boards that are connected. More than 5,000 work trucks have been connected. The striping trucks are connected. The portable traffic signals, the automatic flagging devices are becoming connected. This is happening, and it's happening primarily because the private sector wants it. This is something where we can get information off the workers and get it into the cars, and we can do it right now. We have been doing it for the last 5 years. Now, beyond the private sector solution to this, if you go to the next slide, one of the big advancements, so slide 7, please. One of the big advancements that we have made in the US has been a public sector and an industry-wide effort to organize data around work zones. Slide 7, please. Since 2019, the US DOT has been pushing an effort to get the public sector and the private sector together in what's known in the United States as the Work Zone Data Exchange. This is a common exchange of data in a common format from all public agencies and supported by the private sector. And the way this basically works is every major agency has a database of scheduled work. It's sometimes called the 511 system. And in this flow chart here, the top left corner imagines that database is made and accessible to a processor that organizes it into time, location, a map of the work zone, expected work hours, the type of work that's being done. And that's made available to the agencies of a processor to put that into this WZDX format. From the private sector side, so the bottom left, we are equipping all of the devices that we use for traffic control and out in the field. That's pylons, cones, work trucks, arrow panels that indicate the merge direction, message panels. We're equipping all of those with IoT modems so that we know the exact location of the cones. We know where all the work trucks are. We know where the arrow boards are, where the striping trucks are, where the workers are standing. And that is generating a continuous live feed of the status of all the equipment in the field. And that feed is used to inform the data from the state's planning activities to say whether or not the work zone is active right now at this minute. Yes, the state may be planning to repave a road, but are the workers on the road right now? So we combine the agency's planning information with the contractor's IoT on its equipment and its people to create a live feed in a common format that can be absorbed by third parties such as the navigation companies, the automation companies, and the traditional automotive companies. About half the states now are producing this feed. About half of the equipment builders are supporting it with IoT on the equipment that they build. And that is feeding into an economic engine that incentivizes the contractors and the equipment builders and the agencies to generate a data resource that supports the automotive industry. And so we're getting there. This is not just attainable, it's already happening. General Motors has already participated in this. Ford is participating in this. Volkswagen, Audi is participating. Google, Waze, Apple, they're all participating in organizing this one feed around this one issue, the data on the location and the status of the work zones. And this is what we're advocating as a great first step for safety as we move towards automation. So with that, that's the sum total of my remarks. We can hand it off to the next gentleman.
Thank you, Mr. Ross, for your valuable insight on road safety and presentation. I hope the audience had a great time listening to you and learned a lot from your presentation. I would like to invite our next speaker, who is Mr. Kailash Chandra Tiwari. He's an expert and a specialist who has worked in this field for more than for a lot of years. He has worked on 30 assignments and has trained over 12,000 professionals. Uh, and he's here from Melbourne, so he has taken great deal of time from his schedule to be here with us. So over to you, sir.
Okay, thank you very much. So just I did my master's from Canada, from University of Waterloo, and also from National Institute of Technology in India. And then also I did research for PhD at the University of New South Wales. And then I had been working about 15 years I worked in India, and then about 25 years in other countries, mostly those World Bank and Asian Development Bank and other those donor-funded projects. And basically that was to improve the safety in different countries and different cities. So So like almost all road safety matters from road designs, planning, audits, engineering, and strategies, data collection, development of database management systems, strategies, interventions, and then implementation, action plans, and on the job training. Yeah, next slide, please.
There's
Next
an
slide.
there's an delay in the meeting, so it'll take a time. I have changed the slide.
Yeah, yeah. So just to start with, like we have to see that what's this actual the current status or what's going on. So if we see on an annual basis or on a decade basis, like based on that WHO report, about 14 million fatalities and 50 million injuries that had occurred in last decade. And then the maximum like casualties or the victims were in the age group of 5 to 29 as per the WHO. And record again highest in last year in 2021 in India, about 155,622. So that was the numbers. And again, these are all reported numbers as per the police. And there are again a lot of discrepancies are not being reported, because first thing is the definition of fatality itself is that within 30 days of the collision, that is not being actually recorded. Second thing is many of the unreported there is a lot of underreporting. So even the countries like Australia or UK, up to 20 to 30%, there's underreporting of fatalities are occurring. So the situation is really quite, it is like an ongoing pandemic, like COVID-19. So that is what is again, we have to consider. And then number of pedestrians, again, it is quite high about, and vulnerable road users is very, very high numbers. So numbers we have to also take into account. And surprisingly, and the thing is more worried is that one that after the COVID in last 2021, 22, and even in 23, the numbers have not have been significant increases. In the USA, like 89,000 in last 2 years. Australia, 19 European countries, and in the UK, New Zealand, everywhere that the numbers are increasing, whereas that decade of action 2, decade of action 1 itself had forecasted that 50% reduction. And then again in that current that ongoing decade of action 2021 to 2030, again 50% reduction in KSI or killed and serious injuries. So that is actually that what was expected, it is not going on. So it is a quite serious. And now even that all the specialists and higher authorities, and recently also that at international forums, that it is a very, very grim situation, and where that we have to actually create the awareness, and also that we have to teach that decision makers and politicians that how situation is getting worse and worse. Yeah, next slide, please. So are we willing to accept millions of untimely fatalities, 10 times injuries? So that is an ongoing pandemic and traumas on our roads. or also that not only that it is that those fatalities or casualties or traumas, but also the additional burden on the health, law and order and emergency services, insurance. So all these incident management system. So it is all actually going on. And again, it is all missed and neglected duties of care is what is going on. Next, please. So, means if you want to tackle any situation, the first thing is what we have to have the good and accurate data. So if we have the information, we can do the intervention, because unless what we can measure, we can improve. So that is where the data comes very, very important. And good crash data is necessary to get an accurate picture of the road safety problems. As I mentioned, that one, like in India, about 60% of those fatalities where that contributory factor had been the excessive speeding. So if we know those type of things, so we can definitely do to improve that this speed management. And unfortunately, because of that lack of education, lack of awareness, and lack of knowledge, this factor, this is very, very important aspect, has been not considered. Even it is not included in the safe system plans by the donor agencies and by the different organizations. So evidence-based, good and accurate road crash data-based actions and highly effective interventions are required urgently. So that is just like if it is a pandemic like COVID-19, and it has been treated very well and successfully using the vaccines and boosters. So same thing here, we in the road safety situation, if we can have those data-based, evidence-based those approach and evidence-based interventions, we can tackle it also comfortably. Yeah, next, please. So again, I think most of the people are already aware of that there is a safe system approach where we can have been all the researchers and specialists, they have identified, and like the one he has mentioned just now, Ross, that safe vehicle and autonomous vehicle. So that type of those interventions. So safer vehicles is the one, safe road and roadsides, then safer streets and safer speeds, safer those road users. So road users have to be again made aware, like training of the drivers, training of those road users. That is very, very important. So all these things, if we do, we can actually, definitely we can do that, prevent and reduce those road crashes and also that casualties and loss of properties. And again, we have worked out, like in the case of India itself, the cost of one fatality itself is about $100,000. So that type of information based on the entire, like all the costs involved, the cost of one accident, one fatal accident itself is very, very high, which is converts to be 5% actually that of the GDP. So because of those fatalities and these casualties, a country like India is losing about 5% of the productivity. So we have to do like take actions, and these are the pillars which again, unfortunately, in that pillar one was, which was actually Vision Zero, it was that road safety management. So institutional strengthening and capacity building is again very, very important. And the main emphasis which has been actually neglected almost in each and every countries, except North European countries like Norway and Sweden, is the lack of education. Hardly any institute, university or academy or those like organization, that they are not offering formal qualifications in any diploma, degrees, or postgraduate degree levels. You will not find anybody, almost hardly you will find anybody who has got a degree, diploma, or postgraduate in road safety. So that is the one thing. So until unless we have that, until unless we have the data, accurate data, good data, and how to use the data, how to analyze the data, and how to use, interpret the data, and how to use it in a strategies or interventions. That is very, very important. So even in Australia, New Zealand, India, nobody offering, no university or no college or no academy is offering formal qualifications in road safety management, road safety matters. Except that like a little bit 1 week or 2 week certificate course on road safety audit, or some traffic management or something is being offered. But formal, because it's a completely specialized subject and specialized course, where we have to have the people like professionals. The doctors could, there was health professionals, qualified nurses, they could actually treat that COVID pandemic very well. But until unless we have that qualified and genuine qualified professionals, we cannot tackle the situation. So, and again, that political will is again the missing, and that because of the lack of knowledge, that funding is again a big issue. Yeah, next, please. So again, that decade of action, they have declared that there should be 50% reduction in those KSI, what we call the killed and serious injuries. But as I already mentioned, that these targets, what are there, they have to be very well understood. And that again, they should be achievable. So when we don't know even the definition properly of a fatal accident or that killed, we cannot actually tackle it properly. Like in Australia itself, New Zealand, they have diluted those targets. Serious injuries, they have mentioned that it will be actually, previously it was, definition was that 1 day admitted in hospital. Now it has been actually changed to 3 days admitted in hospital. Then that in place of 50% reduced fatalities, 30%, 40%, the target have been changed like that one. Similarly, those pillars, what we call the vital elements to for intervention, where we have to take actions. Again, that country to country, they are different. Those road safety strategies, they have different. World Bank and WHO, they are different. So that is what is going on. Means if it is a intervention which works, it should be like a globally, it should be treated like that one. If it is a safer vehicle, then definitely it should be we should pay the attention to safer vehicle. Speed is the one factor, but in spite of that one, that many countries, the speed limits, even minimum speed limit in like Abu Dhabi, they have introduced that the minimum speed limit should be 120 kilometer per hour. That type of lack of knowledge is the another big factor, where we know that we can reduce that number of fatalities and those injuries. If we can reduce the speed, we can reduce the fuel consumption, we can reduce the emissions. But in spite of that one, speeds are not being reduced. 30-kilometer speed limit in a Stockholm Declaration, 80 countries, they agreed that there should be in the school zones when the children are present, it should be 30 kilometers per hour. Even India, still there is no guideline for the school zones where that what should be the treatment. So we have to do a lot of things to improve the road safety. And in that case, the data, good and accurate data is very, very important. And again, we developed in India, I started in like Kerala and Karnataka and other places. But again, whatever the database was prepared, GIS based, a lot of money was spent to develop it. But because the ordinary police person is entering the data, they couldn't actually enter the number of the data itself in the database. So if we cannot they cannot collect, they cannot enter the data, how can you analyze and how can you make any interventions? So data itself, that whatever data is being collected, it has to be properly, entry should be made, it should be checked, and again, it should be used for interventions. Next, please. So another aspects which I have been also telling, that one as a one pillar is that visibility. So which is not again included explicitly, because the visibility of vehicles, visibility of hazards, and visibility of road users. So the like work zone or the school zones to be treated just like a war zone. And then people should wear the like PPE. They should be visible. They should wear that helmets, seat belts, and then also they should wear high visibility jackets, reflectors. So the children are crossing, and then they are actually not wearing the proper those clothings. Even many of the people, they have dark colors, brown colors, and in the night time, they are not visible. So then we have to do that type of, interventions. Thank you very much. If any questions, I can answer later on.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for your valuable insights. Hope the audience understood the drawbacks in our system, which we are currently using, and hope through this presentation we can fix and save more lives in the future. And now I would like to introduce Mr. Barry Cook, who will be presenting next. He has worked in the technologies industries in Canada, UK, and the US, including Ottawa area companies in senior positions. He is currently now the executive director of the Canadian Automated Vehicle Center of Excellence. Hopefully, through his special insights and specialties, this webinar can get more information. Over to you, sir.
Right. Thank you very much, and good morning and good afternoon to all of you. Slide number 1, please. And I'll keep talking. That's really my title slide. I want to address in this presentation the use of CAV, meaning connected and automated vehicles, and how those technologies can enhance road safety. Slide number 2, please. Cavco is a consultancy, and as you can see here, we advise corporations and governments on how to prepare for the era of CAVs. And I won't go through the clients, but we work for organizations here in Canada, in the US, and overseas. Slide 3, please. I want to give an overview of what's happening in CAV, because and whenever I say CAV, I mean connected and automated vehicles. And there's been too much hype over the last few years. And to give you a big picture view, I think of three different use cases for CAVs. One is passenger vehicles. And what will happen is it's going to take longer to move to deployment of CAVs for passenger use than we thought even 3 or 4 or 5 years ago. And there's two reasons for that. One is designing and testing CAVs for passenger use is proven to be a lot more difficult than people thought 5 years ago. And so what the car manufacturers are doing is focusing on driver assistance systems. We call them ADAS. And we are going to see a lot of deployment of limited deployment of geofenced passenger cars this decade. The other big change I'm sure you all know about is the car manufacturers are very focused on electric vehicles. We will not see large-scale deployment of passenger CAVs until the next decade. The second category is freight, and there's a lot of momentum here. I mentioned warehouses and airports and so on. And the momentum is strongest where you have controlled environments, logistics applications. And if you're talking about warehouses or airports or seaports, the safety issues are much simpler than they would be for large-scale use on public roads. And then we have what I call service CAVs, machines that cut the grass, do sidewalk inspections, do automated farming, and so on. That's a growing market as well. And there's a lot of things happening here. So this decade, the 2020s, we're going to see a lot of momentum with freight and service CAVs, but the real action on passenger CAVs will follow next decade. Next slide, please. There's a few realities. First of all, unlike humans, CAVs will follow the rules. They will be very, very good at that. There'll be no distractions. CAVs will not spend time messaging on their mobile phones. There won't be distractions from kids and so on. CAVs will have 360-degree view from multiple sensors. And if there is an issue, the reaction time will be a fraction of a second versus several seconds for humans. Next slide, please. The bottom line is that CAVs will have the potential to be much safer than human drivers. There is a very interesting report out of the US about 3 or so years ago, which is often misquoted. The report says that 93% of collisions involve human error. And in fact, most traffic collisions have multiple factors. Too many people quote that report as saying drivers cause 93% of traffic collisions and deaths. And that's not quite right. My hope and my prayer is that as we move to full deployment of CAVs, we can reduce collisions down to 20% of the current rate. Next slide, please. Another big problem, too much hype, is too many organizations, well-meaning organizations, talk about a utopian vision for the future of zero collisions, zero accidents. And I've mentioned a few in the head there. These are great goals, but it's totally unachievable. I'm an engineer, and I know that all hardware, all software fails occasionally. And from the previous slide, we know that 7% of collisions have nothing to do with the driver. And there will be collisions, deaths, sadly, whether a human or computer is doing the driving. Bottom line, there will be collisions, fatalities, injuries, deaths, but far fewer than we have now. Next slide, please. There are some issues. The public has certain expectations. People understand that other human drivers make mistakes and will continue to make mistakes. Sadly, the public expects that CAV technology will be perfect. And as you see from my last two slides, that's not the case. And I think it's very important for all of us who are stakeholders in this ecosystem, help to manage the public expectations, help to realize that even with full deployment of CAVs, there will sadly be deaths and other injuries. Other issues include the laws and best practices must differentiate between driver assistance systems and full CAVs. They are two but overlapping issues. Personally, I feel very concerned about an interim period when human drivers and CAVs will be on the same roads at the same time. Already we find human drivers behave differently when they see a CAV. They know a CAV is cautious, conservative in its behavior, and people take advantage of that and do silly things that they would not do with other human drivers. Next slide, please. There's other issues. If there is an accident or injury or death, who's responsible? And I know from my own experience that the insurance industry, lawyers already working through some of the many details here. If there is an accident, injury, or death, how do police manage this? The CAV collects a huge amount of data. What data should be given to the police? And a basic question, if a police car wants to pull over a CAV, how does a CAV even know it's being told to pull over? These questions are known, but they're a work in progress. Next question, please. Sorry, next slide. I do a lot of public speaking, and this one slide raises more hackles than anything else. Let's go forward in time, 10, 15 years, whatever. And as we get more high level of deployment of CAVs for passengers, if data confirms that computers are safer drivers than human drivers, should we simply ban humans from driving? Is it ethical to allow humans to go out and drive and cause all that death and carnage on our roads when there is a better and safer technology option? Big question. Next slide, please. So just to wrap up here, that's my contact information. I invite you to reach out to me by email or by phone. We also publish a free monthly newsletter called CAV Update that addresses the world of CAV, how it's unfolding, both in terms of technology and in terms of deployment. All we need is your email address, and there's a link there to sign up automatically or just write to me. So that's the end of my presentation. And like my colleagues here, Ross and Kailash, look forward to addressing your questions. And so, Gulshan, back to you.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Robert, for your presentation on CAV. I hope the audience has taken a good note on CAV and its problems and benefits in the coming future. Now, I would like to move the presentation on to the panel discussion, which will involve all the three of our speakers.
Thank you, gentlemen. It was a very informative and informative and future-friendly discussion where I understood all the perspective you guys talked about. So my major concern and one question to you guys is how you feel. Like majorly we talked about data, right? Everything which we are concluding or having a perception on is based on a certain data. So what do you guys feel? How can a data obtained through traffic survey video or analysis to a manual count used to make informed decision on a road safety measure? So, how do you guys feel? Like, what's your take on this of manually calculating or calculating by observing, or how you think that will be more precise way to calculate a traffic survey data?
Okay, is your question, this is Barry, is your question specifically on collecting traffic survey data?
Correct. Yeah.
Okay.
What's your take on it?
My take is that CAVs will collect huge amounts of data about itself, the occupants, and what's happening in the world around that vehicle. And that's going to present a lot of really useful information about traffic. The question is not so much a technical one, but a policy question. How much of the traffic and other information should be shared by that CAV? The video cameras on board a CAV will capture a lot of things, pedestrians, other cars, and there's a privacy issue here as well. And we will need to walk a fine line between using that information for beneficial purposes and in fact having, and not stepping over and creating issues with sharing information that should be kept private.
Ross, I would like to understand your perspective as well on this.
Oh, I haven't thought about it really from your point of view. I do see that industry-wide, worldwide, one of the things that we need to get a measurement of very quickly is our ability to affect route management and driver behavior as we insert more information into both the automated and the piloted vehicle. We have a lot of information in sections of the world on the conditions of the roads. And we have a fair number of companies that are pushing that information, putting it in front of the driver. Over the next 10 years, we're going to need to very carefully look at the effect of that information. One of the big questions is, if I know that there is difficulty on the road ahead, a work zone, a traffic backup, whatever, am I able, as a navigation company or a car company, am I able to convince the drivers to take a different route? In commercial vehicles, very frequently the answer has been no thus far, because the different route is the possibility of unknown problems. Measuring the effectiveness of using data to navigate the driver and affecting the driver's choice is something that we're going to need very, very badly. We have to understand how to present information to the driver or to the CAV in a manner that allows the driver to make a better choice to avoid problems. And that's a matter of really observing traffic from the outside. If we push information into the vehicle, can we observe a change in the amount of traffic that's approaching a trouble spot? And if not, what do we do to use the data to actually make a positive change? It continues to be an issue for those of us who use Waze. Do you really trust Waze to change your route? Or are you going to go by the route that you know well and are confident in? If you haven't allowed the information that's inside Waze to give you a better route, what does Waze need to do to convince you to act on the information? So these questions are gigantic questions of, that are being tackled by major companies, the auto companies, the information companies. How do we best affect the driver? And as we try to answer the question of how do we best affect a driver, we have to be able to measure, have we affected route choices, safety behavior, and things of this sort. And that's where the surveying companies, the traffic count companies are going to come into this equation.
For icon, data is very important and accuracy is important, what I have understood, and that's great. Kailash, any opinion on this? What do you want to say?
See, that, as far as I already mentioned, that good and accurate data is very, very important for decision making, for interventions. And again, for traffic count at an intersection, black spot identification. So anything for even the planning, we have used the data again manually, using the counters, using the drones, and using that videos. So all the data has been collected, analyzed, then using the vehicle, that like road safety assessment, road assessment, so condition of the pavements. So all these type of data we have collected, and we have used just to give an example, in Canberra, I was in charge, and we could get about 35,000 crash records of 3 years, because reporting any accident or any type of accident is compulsory, mandatory. So police has been collecting the data. We validated those data. We analyzed the data. We entered into the database, and we found that ultimately that we identified that secondary arterial roads has that number of more, you can say, fatalities and serious injuries. So we recommended that the speed limit should be reduced from 60 kilometer per hour to 50 kilometer per hour. And we convinced with the data to the minister and to all the stakeholders. We did a lot of consultation also. And then similarly for school zones, 40 kilometer per hour in 2000, and on urban arterials, motorways within the urban limits, 80 kilometer per hour. And the result was that one which Canberra used to have 40 to 50 fatalities per year, it reduced to 10 to 12 per year. So it is very, very useful until and unless we have accurate and timely data and accurate data. But the main problem is, again, just only collection of data is not important. It has to be have proper softwares, proper database system, proper analysis and interpretation of the data, and then use the data for those interventions. So that is very, very important. But data collection, like different methods are there, different use of technologies are there. And like using that one, like in Mumbai itself, that we could recommend after 4 years of study, we could recommend like a sea link, trans harbor links, extension to new Bombay, and that Navi Mumbai was actually developed only with the help of the data. We found that one, that people are living, they need that proper mode of transport, high capacity, and then metro, that rail line was extended. And then in same thing in Delhi, we were running about 10,000 buses, and then metro was introduced. And then the result was that, and then again, not only that one, based on the emission and pollutions, CNG was introduced, electric vehicles are introduced. So that way, until unless we have those accurate and good data, we cannot make any intervention. And we cannot convince the funding authorities, the decision makers, politicians. So we need quite accurate and timely data. And again, the people, as I already mentioned, that one, we need the qualified people to interpret those data and to use the data.
Okay. I guess like Ross would be leaving. So before the Ross leave, like I have just one question. That's like when we are talking about a lot of datas. So Barry, Callas, if you can help me to understand, it's like how we are taking care of data, because in CAV also we will making use of lot of data. So in perspective to two things, one is the cyber security and the security loss or the compliance issues. So how we are taking care of data, how we are storing the data, how we are making use of the data in the security perspective.
Let me jump in first, and it's a straightforward question with a huge answer. You mentioned cybersecurity, and that's an ongoing concern because there's certainly going to be an ongoing issue with cybersecurity and even terrorism of one form or another. Let's do a reality check. This is rather like an arms race. There is a lot of time and money being spent on making the communications to and from vehicles more secure and to protect against cyber hacking of one sort or another. But the bad guys here also have a lot of money. They hired some clever people, and it's like an arms race. Nobody will ever win. We will never completely stop the bad guys from doing things they should not be doing, no matter how hard we try. It'll be an ongoing leapfrogging of hurdles that are put up to try and stop the bad guys, and then the bad guys find ways over or around those hurdles. So cybersecurity is a big issue and will continue to be an issue for the foreseeable future. There'll be no good, satisfactory solution. We just have to minimize it.
Listen, thank you. Kalas, you have anything to take care on the security side of it?
No, Miss, like it's a very sensitive, some of the like information or data what we are collecting, and it has to be definitely secured. So as far as when we are like same case when we were collecting the data for like Canberra, the police is collecting all the data, but when it goes to the analyst, the personal informations were being removed. So they cannot see that what's the name of the person, who is the person involved. And so even that analyst, they were not supposed to actually have the access to that one. Because personal, again, privacy is again important issue. Plus, this can be all misused. Like in Australia recently, that a lot of information was actually from a number of agencies. Data was actually stolen or hacked, and then immediately that the passport, new passport or passport renewal was taking about 2 to 3 months, and it was once it was identified, within 1 week we got the new passport or the renewal of the passport, because the government took it very seriously. And so data is security of the data is again very, very important. And in that case, we have to get secure it as far as possible.
Sid, I guess you are on mute.
Thank you for your valuable comments, Kailash. Thank you, Barry, for your words. So we as SWAT Alliance, we also stand by with the securities, and we are having our expertise in secure cybersecurity as well as secure software development. So as we talked about data, so data is our utmost concern right now. Everywhere, if you go, data privacy and data security is the major role. So going forward, I would like to open it for everyone. If anybody having any question to our panel members, we are happy to address it. So please go ahead. You can raise your hand and or else you can type your message and questions in the chat box, and we'll help you to get the answers. Or you can open up mic and you can go ahead. Yeah, Adesh, you can go ahead.
So, am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Yeah. Hello, everyone. That was a very nice session and very informative also. So, my question is, as road accidents are already occur with the human drivers, and we are moving towards the connected and autonomous vehicles. So, what updates should be there in current safety rules or in testing protocols, or basically majorly in the infrastructure, which could help us to reduce overall road accidents? Because in at the end of the day, we have to change some of the things.
Uh, there's It's a good question. And there's a lot of different things happening in many different parts of the ecosystem to get us ready for CAFs. And some of these are infrastructure related. Some of them are what the car manufacturers are doing. There's public awareness. I mentioned work by the insurance industry, by the police, and many other areas. So I'm not quite sure. Can you just clarify, is there any one particular aspect of all of this, Adesh, that you are focused on here?
So my major focus is, for example, we are moving towards the autonomous vehicles, and there are the chances that some of the scenarios when autonomous vehicle will having a passengers on the back, and suddenly an accident occurs due to the pedestrian. So what AI will do
Okay.
in that case? The legal liabilities will be on the organization side, or will be on AI or something else. That will be a major concern.
There's good question. And I say from a legal and regulatory point of view, the lawyers and the insurance industry is working its way through many of the detailed issues with all of that. The AI itself is going to be very important. And it's we've been talking in this webinar about data and traffic data. And one of the ways that will be useful in the future is simulation. As we move ahead with the design and deployment of passenger cabs, there'll be a lot of work going on with simulations, where in fact the AI will be tested in a complete simulation mode with different traffic situations, with information gathered from the real world. And that's going to be very useful, and you can cover millions of kilometers of testing distance on a simulation basis. There's a lot of work going on with test zones in various countries around the world to actually create simulations of issues that people can test the software against. And then the third level, after simulation, after test zones, then is real world testing. And you need the first two, but there's no substitute for real world testing. And that's going to be also very important. And there's, I've seen people, I've seen videos of, cabs being tested in real world situations. And as we've mentioned earlier, a lot of times it works great, not always. So it's going to, the whole area is going to evolve. It will not be a light switch moment. It'll be a gradual deployment. And, I think back, we are today in an equivalent position to 1908. 115 years or so ago. And what happened in 1908 was when Henry Ford launched the production line for the Model T Ford. And here we are, 115 or so years later, the cars are still evolving. It's not a light switch. And so these many different things are being looked at. which will, which will evolve in a work in progress. And hopefully by the 2030s, we will see some real progress in the commercial deployment of passenger calves. So it's a large, complex area. So it's a good question. I'm not quite sure to what extent that's really answered what you're looking for there, Adesh.
Yes, sir, it was very informative. Thank you very much.
You're very welcome.
Kailash, do you have something to say about this?
See, I think Barry has covered, and I think we can go to the next question.
Yes, sure, sure. So Aditya, I see you raising hand.
Hi, am I audible?
Yeah. Yes, you are.
Uh,
Yes, you are.
yeah, so I wanted to add up on Adish's question. So my question is that how should liability be determined given the complex AI system involved, and who would be strictly liable in such situations, like in the case of accident, as he mentioned? So from the what's your take on it? Like who should be
Yeah.
liable in these situations?
Well, basically, let's move beyond the present advanced driver assistance systems. Let's jump ahead to fully autonomous calves. And there, some of these vehicles will, in fact, may be completely empty, maybe just children in them. So the developers would have to be responsible. And some of the car manufacturers have already said that when you buy a new CAV, you will have liability insurance built in for life. And the reality is, if if the computer is driving the CAV, there's no human at the controls. There are no controls, and then it's the people who have developed and made the vehicle who will be liable. And that isn't one entity. You've got a whole bunch of different entities. You've got the OEM. You've got the people who put in the operating system in the vehicle, the actual AI components, and there's a whole complex supply chain of different hardware and software components who all could be liable. The bottom line is, despite the best efforts of the lawyers and the insurance ecosystem, at the end of the day, it'll be the courts. Because when any calf has an accident, and worst case, if people get killed, then it'll end up in a court battle, and it'll be up to the court to sort through some of the issues and liabilities and decide who's really at fault. And early on, everybody gets sued who could possibly be involved, and then the courts will really figure out which of the individuals. It will vary from one case to another, but it's going to be with a fully automated CAV. There will be no driver. Therefore, the present insurance model does not apply. And as I said earlier, the industry is working on how you redefine that, but it's a work in progress.
Okay, thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
Thank you very. So we'll go on next question. Kailash, do you have anything to say, or we can proceed for the next one?
No, see, the main thing is, as far as improving the road safety is concerned, the main emphasis what is there, that we should concentrate on prevention, not the reactive approach to reduce and when the accident has occurred. Prevention is the one where, like we say, prevention is better than cure. So if we have the data and we have that like a history, trend, those type of things, and like improving that based on those data, we are designing the vehicle with all these features, then we are preventing that one. And prevention is the one, if we can do that one, as I mentioned, that one, uh, we have to concentrate on that one, and our intervention should be on prevention side. And that is why we should use the data. You should collect the data, and then we should see what is proven data, what is effective data, what is the effective features we can introduce, and then we should try to concentrate on the prevention.
Yes, I see Vivek Singh's hand raised. So
I think RC Ali also.
yeah,
Yeah.
Arshia.
Hello, this is Vivek Singh.
Yes, Vivek, go ahead.
Uh, Good evening from here to all of you. My question is to Mr. Kailash. Mr. Kailash has been advocating the need of having a full-fledged road safety course or something like regular course, or maybe something like a master's degree or whatsoever. I have been following him on social media also, and he has been advocating this for a long time. I wanted to ask him that what he thinks should be the syllabus of such a course.
See that now, like just like a doctors, we have the specialist. So similarly, now that we have, because of that, say, inadequate knowledge, lack of knowledge, uh, like as I already mentioned, that one, that everybody since 1997, Vision Zero or that safe system approach by Swedish and Dutch, it all started. And there they identified those the pillars, or what we call the vital elements, where we should take the action, and then we can actually prevent the those crashes and casualties, and also we can improve that road safety. Unfortunately, because of the lack of knowledge, even today, like what the World Bank, what the UN Decade of Action has mentioned, there the actions, the pillars have changed. There is no, in the 5 core pillars, there is no speed management or speed, safer speed. So lack of knowledge is the one where is a big problem. Australia National Road Safety Strategy, they have only 3 pillars for action: post crash, or that other road safety management is missing. So the thing is that one, we should have a proper course from like a planning, design, safe planning, safe design, audits, road safety engineering, black spot aspects, those data collection, data analysis, that interventions, action plans, evaluation, monitoring. So all these economics. So all these which are related to the improvement of road safety. Like I mentioned that one, that we could treat the COVID-19 because we had qualified and well-trained and well-skilled health professionals, nurses, doctors. But unfortunately, in the area of road safety, as I mentioned that one, in India, like a country like India, Australia, New Zealand, I have not come across anybody who has got a diploma degree or postgraduate degree in road safety. So that's why that until unless, what we call that, like a old saying, harsh to say, rubbish in, rubbish out with the quakes. So if you don't know the subject, if you don't have the knowledge, how can you treat it? And that is the biggest, actually, that thing which is missing. And unfortunately, except as I mentioned that in maybe total 5 to 10 institutes where that courses are being offered. Like in Australia, one certificate course is being done on road safety, but it is 1 year course. Again, it requires that minimum graduate should be there, and $30,000 has to be spent. And again, it is you have to be physically present to attend it. And then you get a certificate course. Road safety audits, now in India, it has started. Just within 15 days, people come, get the certificate, and hardly they might be using those knowledge, what they have learned. And again, there is a lot of emphasis that it is has to be used. There is already the deficiency in the road safety audit process itself. It is only a subjective auditing. There is no quantification. They are not supposed to, as per that guideline of the road safety audit of Australia or UK or India. It is just a subjective idea that, and again, the priorities. There is no design. Again, there is no mandatory that whatever recommendations the auditor is doing, that is to be implemented. So there are a lot of issues are involved. So one has to have a proper knowledge how to use the data, like what data to be collected. It is very, very important that we should include all these into the course. There is no book at the moment on road safety in India. Nobody is teaching at level. Only that PhD people, they are doing some thesis, or masters, they are doing some thesis, and they think that they are the expert. Road safety expert, if you find anybody, just please send his details to me. I'll be grateful to you. Thank you. Atis Ali. RC Ali, sorry.
Sorry. Yes, Arshi Ali,
Hello,
please
hello
go ahead.
everyone. Yeah, my question is actually regarding the collection of data. Like we talk about data being collected, being processed. So, what about the situation when the data is hacked by some antisocial element? What will be the security procedure, or what and how will be the situation in such circumstances?
Actually, I missed a little bit of your question. Which circumstances are you referring to there?
For example, if any hacking occurs, or for example, like malware attacks, how will be the data protection will take place? How will be the data protection in such cases?
Um, there's a number of different strategies out there to try and prevent people from hacking into CAVs. One of them, in fact, is ways in which the data is, if somebody hacks in, that hacking can be detected. There's a system for that. And basically the car or the equipment would then not only block that incoming, but also replace whatever data had been was trying to be accessed, prevent it from going outside, and if the data has been corrupted, replace it with an earlier version. That's doable. It has been done. There are techniques, there are companies that specialize in all of this, and I certainly see that SWAT Alliance, they're involved in cybersecurity itself, and so they're very much an expert in this. So it's, and even from the early days of cars, of CAVs, the early prototypes, connected vehicles, there have been successful attempts to hack into them, drive them off the road. So it's a very real issue, perhaps, Gulshan, let me bring you into this conversation because, you guys at SWOT Alliance are very much into cybersecurity. Is there anything you want to add to this?
Sure.
Yep, sure. So this is Gulshan this side. So we are representing SWAT Alliance. So what we do is like we are a firm which is helping all types of companies, especially in the cyber security field. So there are two aspects of the data. When we talk about the data, there are two aspects: data in motion and data in rest. So when we are collecting the data, are we taking care of data getting in the clear text, or there is a hashing or encryption enabled with the data? Just Kailash mentioned that data what we are sharing, it should be masked. The PII data should be removed. Just take an example: if there is a SNN number or social security number, and if it is in a clear text, it is one of the breach. So when we are collecting the data, that some encryption should be enabled, and when we are storing the data, that time also encryption should be enabled, so that in worst case, if any data gets leaked out, that will make no sense. So what we do is we have experienced team, and we are into the field where we are trying to help an organization to have a safe, because today if we talk about data is going to be the next fuel, and that fuel has to be utilized in a very correct and right fashion, because there are only two companies in the world today exist: either it is hacked or it is going to be hacked. So better to prepare, so that in worst case if we get hacked, we have the limited things getting breached. And the best thing is the US government and the compliance, either it is HIPAA, PCI, or any kind of compliance, they take any security breach is very high priority. So we have to take security from the left approach. The time when we are building any kind of software or any kind of vehicle, if we are making out any software, we should keep in mind that security should be a day zero job. This will start from the day one. So this is what our concern, and that is our motive, to make sure if we are helping any organization in this, if they already have a software, we will help them to make it more robust, or else if they are building software, we can get involved and make sure that all the software are getting developed in a secure fashion from day one. So that is our aim, and for any kind of help or any kind of security related things, we are always there to help. And that is also our motive, to make sure like a road safety and whatever it goes in a alignment, because CAV comes along with the road safety, and CAV has a lot of data to be to function well, so that we can secure the data.
Thank you, Gulshan. Thank you for your words, and thank you for the insights. As we at SWOT Alliance, we always advocate secure software development and the security of your data. So we are here to help you out. Anybody reach us for any sort of issues, we'll be happy to help. Okay, Daniel, I see your hands up. So could you go ahead?
Hello.
Yeah.
Hello. Yes, I'm really thankful for this webinar. It is really insightful knowledge that I have gained from here. I have the question to the Barry. Sir, yes, you know that technologies are advancing, and you discussed about the connected and autonomous vehicle. Based on that, you have shown ADAS system, Advanced Driver Assistance System. Sir, is it possible in the vehicle, like if we put ADAS on the vehicle, you are ever writing that in ADAS system there is a some features that if the vehicle divert from the lane marking and it shows a signal, and also if even there is a vehicle sign board of speed limit, then even it detected the vehicle, they give the warning system. Sir, if it is possible in the electric vehicle, because the electric vehicles are now in a trending mode, the production is going on. If we compulsory install the ADAS system to the electric vehicles, such that in the particular locations, if there is a yes, it is obvious that there will be a GPS system on the vehicle. Sir, is it possible? Because in a particular place there will be a sign of speed limit. Based on the sign of speed limit, vehicle automatically detected based on satellite, such that vehicle beyond the speed limit, vehicle automatically lock, such that human drivers cannot drive the vehicle beyond the speed limit. Based on this, sir, is it possible on the vehicle, the coming new vehicle, such that we can keep the human drivers as well, and also based on the ADAS system, we are possible to use that technology in the electric vehicle? That's my question.
Very good question there, Daniel. It's a lot of things are possible technology from a technology perspective. The real question is it desirable? I do know, I can't speak about India. I know that over here in North America, it's fairly common for trucks to have speed limiters to allow them, to prevent them from doing more than, let's say, 5 miles an hour, 5 kilometers an hour over the speed limit. That's very common. You could build it into cars as well, but we have a bit of a paradox. You know, round in my part of the world, I'm in Ottawa, Canada, but in Toronto, the main freeway around Toronto is called Highway 401. The speed limit is 100 kilometers per hour. People routinely drive at 115 to 120, and that's tolerated by police. Now, if you happen to be driving at 100 kilometers an hour and everybody around you is doing 115, 120, then that really is unsafe, because you then become people come up on you quicker than they would expect, and there is a safety issue. It's the paradox is, unless you have really strict enforcement of the speed limits and people normally go faster, somebody who sticks to the speed limit becomes a hazard. So it's a policy issue that needs to be addressed, and some jurisdictions are a lot more rigid than others. I know that some European jurisdictions far more strict about enforcement of speed limits. And you know, I've drive quite a bit in the UK, and speed cameras and the speed and the culture of recognizing there are speed cameras everywhere is a major issue. So from a technology point of view, yes, it's possible, but it needs to be thought through carefully as to what we really want to do.
Thank you, Barry. Thank you for insights. Kailash, do you have anything to add on?
Yeah, actually, that it's all depends on that. You can say the policy making and regulatory authorities. So, there is an intelligent that speed adoption system (IDA), what they are telling it, and then again it will be made mandatory in Europe. I think from next year. Already that is a move is there that you cannot actually exceed whatever is the speed limit is there, and again, if you can exceed, you can exceed by say 5 kilometers or like that one. So that type of features is already there, and technology is there. Only thing is again is a practicability of that one. Like in South Australia, that the speed limit is only just if you can even go in 62, 63 in 60 zone, you will be fined. But in Dubai, Abu Dhabi, France, up to 20 kilometer you can go over the limit. So it's all again technology is there, but again the applying the technology and then acceptance by the users, by that motoring organizations, that is again a critical issue. So technology, it is there, it can be done, it's not a problem, but again acceptance, and again whether it will be used by the drivers, and it will be acceptable. Like in UAE, lot of cases the speeding fines are being done, and again that suddenly that in the last month when that speeding fine has to be collected, 50% discount is given. So what's the use of doing that type of things? So means that it has to be logical, it has to be viable, and technology is there that in even electrical vehicle or anywhere that speed can be controlled and monitored. And
Let me
again, with the GPS system and with the technology, it is quite easy to do that.
just one additional thing there. I didn't mean to jump in too soon there, Kailash, but one quick additional thought is, I know in Toronto where there is a lot of speeding, I was reading a while back that if the police see somebody driving at exactly the speed limit, the police get suspicious. And because it's normal to speed, and that's become a real paradox.
Yes, thank you very and Kailash. As I see, there's one more question by Ajay Nair on the road safety. It is important to have a regular inspector staff for facility inspections and comply with standards. The only an audit can be conducted to certify the road segments assets. So, any comments on these guys?
I think
Question is straight up. Yes.
just I would brief answer is that one that means as I already mentioned that one doing that audit is good. It is like a for prevention. So audit is actually to identify the potential those deficiencies from safety point of view. So whatever the features are there, and again at different stages, audits are being actually undertaken. But the thing is that one, whatever the auditor, first thing, they should be independent, they should be qualified, they should be experienced, and at the same time that whatever they are recommending, it has to be agreed upon and it has to be implemented. And there the problem is there, because uh, even if auditor points out the things that it has to be done or it has to be improved upon, it has to be agreed upon, and again it has to be implemented, and funding should be there. So these are the things which are very, very important. So just simply auditing is not a good thing. It has to be a complete package where that from audit team, selection of audit team, undertaking audits at various stages, then finalizing the recommendations, agreeing upon the recommendations, then funding, and then proper like what the design priorities, and then it has to be implemented, and again it has to be evaluated and so it's a continuous process. It is not just like a piecemeal or a one solution.
Let me just add one thought there as well, Kailash. I agree with what you just said. There's a company I know quite well down in a place called Kitchener in Ontario, and they market a vehicle that does audits of sidewalks, quality audits, and they've got sensors and artificial intelligence to measure the quality of a sidewalk. If I look ahead, and I can see vehicles that in fact have the sensors and the artificial intelligence to drive along a road and do quality audits in terms of what it sees and senses. And so if you can have automated machines that do these audits, or at least help with those audits, that'll be a step forward as well.
Yeah, we used that type of actually system in Canberra in 2000. Mm-hmm. So entire Canberra, all the sidewalks and then bike paths, all they were actually surveyed using this type of equipment. We collected all the data and we developed the program for improvement and also that like expansion.
Yeah, sounds good.
Thank you, Kailash. Thank you, Barry, on this. And now I would like Sabyasachi to take over from here. Go ahead, Sabya.
Hello, am I audible?
Sabya, your voice is not clear to us.
Hello. Hello. Am I audible now?
Yeah, we can barely hear you. Can you just rejoin or help us with your mic?
Just Hello.
Yes, Sabya, now we can hear you.
Okay. Okay. Well, that was a really informative discussion coming from some real-time experiences and expertise. I'm sure that all of our audience present here today have drawn valuable insights from whatever we have discussed and through the various presentations that our esteemed speakers have given. Well, greetings to one and all, our esteemed speakers and our audiences from across the globe. I, Sabyasachi Sharma from Team SWAT Alliance, cordially appreciate your presence in today's event. Proceeding towards the end of today's event, I want to extend my gratitude to our esteemed speakers, Mr. Ross D. Sheckler, Mr. Kailash Chandra Tiwari, and Mr. Barry Kirk. Sir, your expertise and dedication have provided us with valuable insights and inspired us to take meaningful action in making our roads safer for all. Throughout this event, we hope that we at SWAT Alliance were strongly able to address the global concern, the challenges faced of road safety, and emphasize the importance of collaborative efforts, prioritizing vulnerable road users through various methods of evolving technologies and methodologies. The topic of road safety being a global concern, and through today's discussions and suggestions of our prestigious speakers, we have tried to bring into spotlight the various concerns, dangers, and the perils that revolve around this seemingly plain topic called the road safety. And the possible solutions as well have been put forward through discussions and presentations by our speakers. As we bring this event to an end today, let us remember that our discussions must translate into actions and that we each have a role to play in promoting road safety within communities and advocating for better road design and traffic management. We at SWAT Alliance have pledged to take this global concern of road safety to a much broader perspective by conducting such seminars at a quarterly basis, with this one being the pioneer of the series. Apart from this topic of road safety and our services of traffic monitoring, the Team SWAT Alliance is also devoted to secure software development and cybersecurity solutions. Now, I would like to take a moment and thank all the team members, our esteemed panelists, and our wonderful audience for making this webinar a success. Let us continue this crucial work beyond this event. Thank you.
Yep. Thank you all. Goodbye.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.